Wolves were wary. Wolves owned by Fosun International, Chinese owners. Wolves owners were wary about the additional financial commitment of playing in the Women's Championship. And that's as much as I know. But I just think it's really sad that a team could play a whole season hoping and believing that they were going to get into the next level, and then finding out that even had they been successful in doing so, their parent club apparently was not willing for them to go to that next level because of the cost.
Well, I'm a great believer that, people shouldn't be in a position to tell other people how to spend their own money. And, if somebody else wants to pay for it, then fine. But why should it be imposed on people that they have to spend money in a certain way, particularly as a result of being successful? Normally, when you think about it in life, you are successful, you earn more money. In women's football, unfortunately, when you're successful, you lose more money. That's the key thing to understand, right? The championship in men's football is a loss-making division. In the Premier League level, if you want to make a profit, you easily can, right? So getting promoted from the championship to the Premier League means you lose less money. Great, fantastic. Not so in women's football. Every time you get promoted, you lose more money.
If you were promoted, why would you automatically lose money? I mean, even if you're not getting bigger attendances, could you just not keep the squad that you have got, pay them the same wages, whatever they may be, and maybe take a punt on staying up? Why would it automatically cost more?
Right, because the third division, Adrian, in women's football is amateur and semi-professional, and the second division, the championship, is professional. And whilst it has been a mixture of semi-professional and professional, under the new rules, they're moving towards a structure by which you have to be professional and you have to spend a certain minimum amount of money on your women's wages, right? So there is a significant difference. So probably you're moving from a situation where in the third division,
and that would be a license, and that would be a license condition of being allowed to play in the Women's Championship. That's the paperwork that Wolves didn't fill in, because filling in that paperwork means that you take on this financial commitment, and that if you don't meet those commitments, then you can't play in the Women's Championship anyway.
That's exactly right. Something called minimum standards. Correct, because effectively the word professional. But in reality, some of the women are being paid so badly that they're being paid less than the minimum wage, except something called the Carney report that said effectively that English women's football should have two professional divisions, despite the fact that there were not the revenues there, even close to the revenues there, to support two professional divisions. And it's created this horrible situation where effectively even relatively prominent clubs like Baggies, Wolves and these types of stuff are really not sure, or in many cases don't want to have professional teams. There was a team that was promoted recently, relatively recently, from the third tier to the second tier, to the championship. And I remember speaking to the chief executive after 3 or 4 months in the second tier, and he said, we're just desperate to get relegated. This is a horrible division to be in. It comes with no upside whatsoever. You don't get bigger crowds. You've got much bigger costs. You don't want to get promoted to the Women's Premier League because that comes with huge costs, and you're going to get beaten 5 or 6-0 every single week and end up with no points in the season. So why do I want to be in the second division? He was like, look, the third division was a happy place. It was a happy place to be. The players were basically amateur and got paid a bit to turn up. That was nice. But they had other jobs. They were PE teachers, they were, working sometimes in desk jobs, etc. And everyone was happy. He said, all I've seen in the second division of women's football is unhappiness. Everyone's unhappy. The players aren't paid enough to really be professional sports people. The crowds are tiny. No one wants to be promoted. Just the whole thing is an absolute misery. But unfortunately, this has all been swept up because of that ghastly Carney report. This has all been swept up into this whole, well, we have to try and make women's football equal to men's football, etc. Now, so what Wolves are looking at